So a lot of girls ask me either on social media or, in person sometimes, how I went about telling you my testimony for the first time. I know different girls who are, in relationships, dating, maybe even more, farther along the line in their relationships and trying to figure out how to tell that person they're with their full testimony. And what I share with people is that I told you my testimony right away. Like it was one of the first serious conversations that we had. And I think the reason I did this is because you and I were both not messing around. Like we were dating to marry. That was our intention was, we're looking for the one. And the only way to, I guess, sort of weed out the people who aren't right for you is by being brutally honest about who you are. And so I shared my testimony with you right away. And for me, this was a great filtration system for sifting out guys that, couldn't handle my story. And I think that you handled my story with so much grace and just love and acceptance that was a big green flag. But I'm curious, how did you feel hearing my testimony for the first time? Like what was your feel for that? Were you intimidated by it at all, or how did that make you feel personally?
Yeah, that's a good question. I felt grateful more than anything because, like you said, we were in the period of our lives where we were pursuing a serious long term commitment, whoever it was going to be, that filtration process. And it's very difficult to start that commitment on the basis of just ambiguity and wondering what will be. Not only that, the person who has something to confess, just outside of the ordinary, you know, that person doesn't want to feel like they're living in a lie or they're accepted for somebody who they're not. And so just putting all of those cards on the table and discussing it, observing how each one of us interacts with that story, goes about it, like that was an important part of it.
Yeah.
Was it, a nervous, experience with so many different moving parts? Yeah, absolutely. But so is, everybody else's redemption story, and that doesn't make it any less valuable. So I definitely was grateful for the opportunity to not only have earned the trust to be led into um, that story, but also to be a part of it going forward.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, I appreciate that. And I really got that feel from you. Like nothing I told you felt like a burden from you. Instead, it felt like you truly were grateful to move forward with me. And I think it's because you could see with your own eyes the redemption and you could see the 180 based on what I told you and what I'd show you. So it wasn't really intimidating for you to move forward in a serious relationship with me because you saw the way that God really did change my life.
Yes, and I saw that it was authentic too, because there is a level of, if it's been done once, what's the likelihood of it being done again, and so on and so forth. But, I noticed I was, just throughout my life in general, I've always been so, I would say, cautious with people just in general, but specifically with those whose, past doesn't align with past or present doesn't align with my, principles or goals moving forward. But I've grown to notice that there's definitely a difference between somebody genuinely changing and somebody changing for, to adapt to a circumstance or to be likable or get validation and so on. And so with you, it was a completely different story. It was one of those rare cases that I've encountered where a person could get transformed completely without me ever worrying about anything from your past happening ever again,
Mm,
especially in marriage.
yeah.
Especially in marriage, where there is a natural checks and balances with you and I keeping each other very straight. So that was that wasn't going to be a problem the moment I realized that that was the case.
Yeah, that it was genuine. I appreciate that you said that because as I'm writing my book right now, and there were so many times along the way that I tried to change on my own strength or based on, like worldly standards of how I wanted to be, but a true change hadn't happened in my heart yet. And so it always resulted in me backsliding back into that old life. But this time I had truly encountered Jesus, and that's what changed my heart. And so now my change was on a deeper heart level versus me trying to just externally be something and change my
Yeah.
strength.